Welcome to Headliners Forum. We're here to bring you the best in Texas journalism, the stories behind the great stories. I'm Mark Morrison. Our special guests are David Barrere and Josh Hinkle of the investigative team at KXAN, the NBC affiliate in Austin. Their KXAN team won a Silver Showcase Award in this year's Headliners Foundation competition for their series called Locked in Limbo: Mental Illness and Inmate Backlogs. Their hard-hitting journalism uncovered an alarming number of mentally ill men and women being held in Texas jails. Unable to stand trial, some are waiting a year or more to get a bed in a state hospital. Josh and David, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your Showcase Award for Enterprise and Innovation, and yet another of many well-deserved Headliners Awards by KXAN.
Thank you for the recognition.
Thank you very much.
David, please tell us a little about the origin of this story and why you and your colleagues launched a major reporting effort.
It started really with a record request I made to the Travis County Sheriff's Office to get the roster of inmates there. One of the pieces of data that was included in that was the date that the inmates were booked, and we saw that some of them had been there for 5 or 10, or in 1 or 2 cases 20 years. So that was really unusual. And when we dug into that, we found that they were there not actually in Travis County, but in the state hospitals. And in talking to experts in the criminal justice system and the mental health system in Texas, they said that wasn't necessarily the big issue of people being stuck for long periods of time in the state hospital, but there is a major issue with people being stuck in jail, not being able to get into the state hospital because they're full. And we looked into that. We saw that the problem has been growing, getting worse, and that's why we decided to dedicate a lot of time and effort to digging into it and uncovering what was going on.
Right. Josh, your team took more than a year on this project, which is a big investment for the staff. What were some of the reporting obstacles, and how did you overcome them?
I think initially the biggest obstacle we faced was the fact that this was a story about mental illness and also about jails. And those aren't topics that, everyone wants to talk about on a personal level. I think getting people to open up and agree to share their stories could be challenging. We also, landed this project right as soon as the pandemic was hitting the United States. And so coronavirus was spreading out across Texas, and our station sent everyone home, and we were all working from home. So as we were kind of wrapping up the project, that really, from a logistical standpoint, made things challenging, like it did for so many news crews across America.
David, share a little bit about the human side of this story, the impact on the mentally ill people who are in jail themselves, and of course on their families, and how you told this story in a very powerful way across media platforms.
Yeah, the stories that we heard are really awful and tragic and sad and hard to imagine how bad it is to be. Consider that what the main issue is, that people are stuck in jail, unable to get to a state hospital, and they're having a mental crisis. So you can imagine you're stuck in a jail. They're not really providing very good care of you, especially your mental health, and they call it decompensate. You can spiral worse down, worse and worse, into a worse and worse mental health crisis. And we profiled a couple different cases. One was a guy named Ben Bush, he was in Morrison County Jail, and he was stuck in solitary confinement for months, and he was essentially, not understanding even why he was there. He had had a mental break, At the same time he was there, we know that there was another guy who was also stuck in Williamson County Jail. And he died waiting for a state hospital bed. So the conditions that some of these people are in, stuck in jail, is just really horrifying. So we used a couple different cases to profile, and I should mention another guy, Adon Castaneda, who is stuck in Comal County Jail and cycling back and forth from the state hospital to Comal County Jail, regaining his mental competency and then having it fall apart again because his case was taking so long. Adon was an Iraq War veteran, Marine Scout sniper, and we've talked to him and his mom many times. So we use these really compelling stories, and like Josh said, it's hard to get people who had a mental health crisis to talk, but especially on camera, but we managed to find a couple guys that did, and they helped us tell the story across like the different platforms you mentioned.
Right. Josh, as the series noted, the state has made some efforts to address this problem over the years. So why has it just continued to get worse, it seems, as you reported the story?
Well, mental illness is something that is increasing in general. So more people are suffering from mental illness in our state and in our country. So the problem is not getting any smaller. The solution is what needs to continue growing in order to combat this growing problem. I think we've seen a couple of possible solutions that are being tried out in Texas, including some people trying jail-based competency restoration and also outpatient competency restoration. So you're not having to have those really long wait lines or those waits for state hospital beds. Those are some other alternatives. Of course, both of those have some drawbacks that critics will point out to, but I think that it's going to take some really outside the box approaches to get in front of this problem the way that Texas needs to.
Right. And David, since the report was broadcast, has government taken additional steps, and how was this taken up in the latest legislative sessions?
Yeah, I can't say that they really fixed the problem. There were some attempts to address it in the legislature. Our local state senator, Sarah Eckhart, authored a bill that would have created the forensic office inside the Health and Human Services Commission. And that would have really had oversight of this wait list issue, and would have, the goal would have been to alleviate it. That bill didn't pass. So she said she'll be working on it again. She's not going to give up on that. So that's one thing. The state has also continued to put more money into funding improvements to state hospitals, but I don't think experts really expect that to completely fix the problem. So like Josh said, there's going to have to be more outside the box thinking on this in the future.
Yeah. So Josh, there's been some positive impact, but of course it's a work in progress, and this is a huge, a big issue in the context of a much larger one. What are you and your colleagues doing to keep this story front and center with viewers and decision makers?
Well, over the summer, we ran a big update to our report where we featured the legislative approaches, like David just mentioned, with Senator Sarah Eckhart, and kind of gave updates on what the numbers were and how they had grown during the pandemic. We're currently working on some additional stories that we hope to roll out soon that will really drill down into the data and show just who these people that are stuck in this wait list really are. We're looking at things like race, socioeconomic factors, and I think that what we're finding so far is pretty eye-opening, and I hope that lawmakers will really pay attention to it and see what that effect has been.
So there may be an issue of fairness involved too in the case of different prisoners.
it's definitely an equity issue.
Yeah. Josh and David, thanks so much for sharing your reporting experiences. Our judges were impressed with the way you uncovered a questionable practice that we didn't know much about, and your hard digging and storytelling skills. KXAN has a great tradition of investigative journalism, and congratulations for keeping that going in challenging times.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the Headliners Foundation for this recognition. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. From our site, headlinersfoundation.org, you can link to the entire KXAN series and to interviews with other award-winning Texas journalists. For our producer, Gary Pickle, I'm Mark Morrison, hoping to see you again soon on Headliners Forum.